Now, let me come back to you again on the issue of on the big Tuesday, that is the big no. I was with you in your neighborhood when you were voting. But before we left, is that we did know who was leading. Can anybody come back on that?
At the overall or in the London primary?
In the London primaries.
Barack Obama won the London primary, beating Hillary 2-1. It was 971 votes for Obama, 422 votes for Clinton. So that was a substantial victory. And as I understand, he's winning the vast majority of the other international primaries. He won Berlin, he won Indonesia, he also won, as I understand, France. And so he's globally, he's captured the world's imagination.
Okay. And as a woman to another woman, do you think Hillary's going to better protect our interests, especially as with the Supreme Court being very precariously balanced on the issue of Roe versus Wade? Can you see Hillary as a better supporter of women's interests?
Well, Hillary being a woman herself, I'm sure she's a great supporter of women's interests. I think that she has enough political experience to know that that's going to be something which matters to her voters as a woman, but I'm sure that she also, her integrity will show that she will select the best people for the job as opposed to on a gender basis.
Now, maybe I want to put you again on the wall. The issue here is that if I come to you, what are the political issues that you think would influence you to vote as an American in London? What are the political issues that you think are appealing from all the candidates?
I mean, I think you want to see how, I think to get somebody to vote, you want to see how the politics and the policy actually affects you personally. So I think when you're living abroad, it's a different set of issues because the domestic issues, which are certainly important, healthcare, Social Security, all the domestic issues, don't quite apply as heavily as do the foreign policy issues, Iraq, diplomacy, development in the third world, and our face abroad. And I think regardless of who's elected this in 2008, which Democratic candidate, you're going to see a stark difference. And I think it's going to be a positive difference because both candidates are willing to reach out in a much greater degree.
Okay. If you don't mind me jumping in there, I disagree slightly because as an American living abroad, and especially in a liberal European country, domestic issues actually matter to me and they get slightly more highlighted to me because of the services offered in Europe that perhaps we don't get given in the US. For instance, healthcare being a major issue for Hillary supporters in particular. As an American living in Britain, I see the NHS and the availability of services over here, and that reminds me that has to be one of the top issues in the US. And whereas international issues, they matter to everyone living wherever. I think the Iraq War is a big deal, not only for the US, but the other countries involved.
And we've had a number of states already have their primaries, but which states do you think are going to be the major battlefields coming up soon?
Well, I think this Saturday we have Washington State, which is on the West Coast, because a lot of people confuse that with Washington, D.C. Washington State, Louisiana, which will be interesting because this will be the first time they've voted for a presidential candidate after Hurricane Katrina. And then we also have Nebraska, which is a neighboring state to Obama's Kansas, where he was born. Or forgive me, I think he was born in Hawaii, but his mother's from Kansas.
And you also have Texas coming up, which is a large state with a number of delegates. And that's also going to be, as you look forward towards the rest of the election cycle, that's going to be a big prize for whoever candidate can win that.
Now, there's this general perspective, there's this general notion that during this administration, the image of America has been tarnished abroad. But you as Americans living abroad, do you get this brand? Do you get this bad feeling well on the streets?
I know I do. I've been living in Britain on and off for the past 6 years, and I've been apologizing for the Bush administration for all of that time. It's funny because when he first got elected and I was over here, people just kind of laughed because of the way the Supreme Court put him in office. But, you know, certainly after the Iraq War, you know, I remember I was in Manchester a couple of years ago, and I was at a party, and someone just heard my accent, and they said, "Did you vote for George W. Bush?" They didn't know me, they didn't know anything about me, but they heard the accent, and they just wanted to know whether or not I was a Bush supporter, and I said, no, I voted against him twice.
Yeah, I can echo Stuart's. I do think that the image of Americans has suffered in the last 7 years on account of the inability to kind of reach across and work with our foreign allies, and I think that's affecting people on a day-to-day basis in the UK.
I think although a lot of people have perceived, Americans abroad negatively, perhaps in the past, a lot of people are looking to us for hope now, and they're looking to us to make the difference in this election. We've had a lot of British people, we've had a lot of all different nationalities getting involved in these campaigns. There's not just American people working on these campaigns, and that proves that everybody's worried about the image.
Now, in every election, there's going to be a strong media influence on what actually happens in the election. Can you tell about how the candidates that you support have been able to use the media in new ways to make a difference in how they reach out to voters?
Right. I think one of the things we're seeing also is the new media sources like YouTube and some of the internet sites are a source that candidates are starting to use to kind of proliferate their messages and their viral videos. There's a great video by will.i.am. It's called Yes We Can. It's a music video about a Barack Obama speech, which is right now making its way across the internet. And that's just one example of an ability to kind of work through new media to get the message out.
If I could follow up with that, another thing though that I was saying before is Barack Obama has a tremendous money-raising machine just via the internet. So before, if you think of the 1980s, if people wanted to fundraise, they had to actually write letters, they had to print letters, they had to mail them, which cost a stamp. Now, you kind of get an email, and it's from, someone in the campaign, maybe Barack or Michelle, emailing millions of people, or Senator Clinton, and they're able to just kind of, with a click of a button, raise hundreds of thousands, if not millions. But to kind of follow up on Andrew's YouTube point, the interesting thing about YouTube is it catches politicians off guard. And if I am an Obama supporter, Bill Clinton has been caught off guard a couple times losing his temper with journalists. And the problem with that is when it's reported as Bill Clinton loses his temper, people don't know really how to perceive that. But they can actually go on YouTube now and watch Bill Clinton get red in the face and wag his finger and get really angry. And that changes the tone of the campaign. So with YouTube and other these kind of new medias, people can get involved and see everything up close and personal like never before.
Definitely for Clinton's campaign abroad, the new media has been a huge portal, especially internet and emails we've spoken about. But also I've noticed that that's not been the main driver or the only driver of her campaign. For Americans abroad, for Hillary, a lot of it has been still at the grassroots level, getting together and meeting, and I think that's still just as important, if not perhaps even more important. We've had numerous of Hillary's campaign advisors phoning in, we've had phone-ins, which has been great, and the new technology available has definitely helped us as Americans abroad.